Okay, here we go. David, how are you doing?
Good, my friend. Good, my friend. Yourself?
Yeah, very well. Chris, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. You're
This
good
is
over there?
this is the evolution of the fitness industry. You guys were, I would have already referenced this in the introduction, but took me under your wing. Must have been how long ago now? 15, maybe, yeah, 14
Must be
years
about
ago.
15 years ago. Yeah. Well, you've got the whole evolution, haven't you? You've got Chris, who I kind of looked up to and took me upon its wing, and then
Oh, he said it.
into the game.
God, I feel so old, guys.
You're like the grandfather of fitness, Chris.
I'm like the grandfather of you lot, and I can still see grey hairs on you lot. So I'm like done for, aren't I?
I'm just happy I've still got my hair.
There's no hope.
All right, so I thought I had this idea and just reached out to you guys because I thought, like you said, we're kind of obviously we have our respective sports and kind of like niches that we're in within the fitness industry, but we all kind of started in the same position. So I thought it'd be good to just have a chat through the evolution of the fitness industry and, literally just a casual conversation. But before we do that, Dave, do you want to go first? Do you want to just give yourself a little introduction?
Yes, mate. Yeah. So mine's Dave. I'm essentially a coach. I have my own company, Body Development. So I'm a coach at Body Development. I've been in the industry probably since I was about 19. Various ranges from fitness instructor to class instructor to personal trainer, all the way through to what I do now as a online fat loss coach. So yeah, like I say, talking about today, like obviously like the evolution of it all is quite good. Obviously being here with Chris and Joff as well, but yeah, like I say, we've seen a lot and seen the evolution of it all as well. But yeah, I've been in the game for a while, seen quite a bit, worked with a lot of people, and yeah, which brings me here now.
Awesome. Chris, tell them.
Tell them about me. Hi, well, I'm Chris. I'm also a PT over in England, in Cornwall. So I work currently just as a one-to-one coach, and also online triathlon coach as well. So triathlon is one of my massive passions. Been doing it for many years now, and then more recently into coaching people. Started out probably, I don't know how old you lot would have been now, but it would have been about 2000 when I started, the year 2000. There's a song in there somewhere, isn't there?
There's got to be, isn't there?
And basically, yeah, just gone through all the different progressions. So yeah, seeing fitness really explode over the last 20 years, really, into where we find us now, where we're talking on podcasts, on Zoom conferences, doing this stuff. So yeah,
you've done well getting on the call anyway. Let's hope.
I've done really well. Really impressed with myself. Thank you.
So I think what's cool and like just to highlight is obviously we're all personal trainers. We've all worked in gyms. We all worked in the same gym before. We've all kind of gone different directions in terms of Chris, you're a lot more kind of like in terms of what you do for your own sport, but the people you work with a lot more kind of triathlon based, maybe more endurance based, but a lot of general population as well. Dave, general population, and then obviously as ex-physique model or, the people that you're working with in terms of, fat loss goals and that type of stuff. And then I guess myself went down more of like the CrossFit route and more of that performance side of it. I feel like because we all kind of push that same message from the core, but then it kind of gets a little bit diluted the further you go into it. It'll be good to just kind of go back through some things that we've seen kind of come in and out of the fitness industry. And I was thinking of doing it, and we'll go through as like a step-by-step from, 14 years ago. But I think probably what's best to do is, I know I've asked you guys to write down a few notes, and I think just keep it super casual. We'll just kind of come up with things. And if it's a big topic, we'll go into more detail. If it's just a little one, we'll brush over it and kind of go from there. So I think I'll get us started. And I know that 14 years ago, Waterworld, I think about how I was training, the training that most people were doing in there, and it was all around the bro split.
Classic bro split, mate. Yeah.
Dave, do you want to explain the bro split?
So your bro split is essentially your typical chest, triceps, back biceps, and repeat, essentially. But like I say, you do have the people there that split it up into like kind of their legs, the traditional kind of bodybuilding aspects of attacking their training essentially. But you would go in, you would have international chest day, and they're throwing in the triceps in there, then you have back and biceps, then you have legs, then you would have a shoulders day, and it's very specific to individual muscle parts. And then even if you did that, but you would have other people that would just train their, like say their party muscles essentially on a typical day, because it's what they can see. I train my chest, I train my arms before I go out on a weekend, and that's about it.
I think
mirror muscles.
Yeah, when it was around and popularized, I think people would like to be able to just like categorize to a training style, and that's just such an easy one. You know, when you first get into the gym and someone explains to you about, hey, you have a specific day for your chest, you have a specific day for your shoulders. It's great when someone's first getting into it, but then there's that plateau, right, where people aren't able to get the right amount of volume that they would need maybe in a traditional session of like a push pull or something like that, and they end up just going down this journey, and it's, you know, it can be quite a relatively easy way of training. You know, finish work on a Monday, go in and do chest, next day go in and do back, and you just do a few sets on each exercise. How have you kind of seen it adapt over compared to now?
Well, obviously, like you said, it was the easier kind of split to do, because you obviously had like the Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of popularity from his bodybuilding days to his like acting career, etc. So, you know, people looking at, they see in Flex magazine, they see in like Men's Health, even like say that's now evolved into kind of a lot more variety and diversity in regards to the style of training it's gone to do. But yeah, like I say, it did start off with kind of, it's easy, you turn up, you do these sorts of splits, and it doesn't take a lot of thinking. You just kind of go in and do it.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing, is it? In some ways, you know, like you said, it gets people, if it gets people started and it gets people moving and it gets them a way in, then it's not all bad. And I'm sure like we still use it now, don't we? In certain things you'll still periodize.
I still use it now, but again, it's all, sorry, Josh.
Go on.
Yeah, let's say it's all specific, isn't it? Like what your goals are, what you want to achieve on it, and like I say, are you achieving your goals? Are you plateauing? And where do you want to go with it? What do you want to do with it? Because that's essentially what it comes down to. So working out what that goal is, and then essentially reverse engineering it back and working out, am I on the right path to achieve that goal?
I think what's changed as well is that, like, if you take it back, like say Rowe splits, those classic the classic guys that were coming in, that were going for those sort of workouts, that were, like you say, trying to train those mirror muscles and things like that kind of has changed slightly as well over these last sort of like 10 years or so. Is that I think particularly guys, girls as well, are more interested in like athletic performance, isn't it? So it's not all about just how big can you get those muscles and things like that, and how do you look. It's also about that athletic performance now, because sport, CrossFit, you know, Josh knows well, has started to sort of take over, and so there's a different element to it now. It's not purely about just physical appearance. There's still an element of that, and I'm sure later on in this cast we can talk about like Instagram and all that sort of stuff. But I do believe, yeah, it's not, everyone isn't quite so focused. I know the guys that approach me about training, it's like, I want to get fit for football, I want to get fit for rugby, I want to get fit obviously for triathlon. So I think people have a different purpose now. It's not all about just, yeah, those mirror muscles, which it was back in the day, probably.
Absolutely. I mean, you used to get, especially like, you know, the gym bunnies, females, etc., going in and, you know, plodding away on the treadmill for hours on end. And it's kind of evolved from being skinny and cardio to being strong, athletic and performing better, as well as obviously that underlying mantra of going, everyone wants to look good naked, right? So, you know, I think that's always going to be there. But like you said, like Chris, is people have that kind of element of wanting to be stronger, wanting to be fitter, wanting to be better, and have other objectives rather than just to look good in the mirror.
I think, and that's the reason I wanted to start with Bro Split. I mean, it seems so broad, but it's stood the test of time, right? And like you've already said, like we're still using it. And even now, if I'm a bit stuck for ideas and I'm not necessarily following a program, I'll go in and do, you know, chest day or arm day or whatever. And I think personally, I think one of the reasons that it's still around is because you get like an instant gratification or satisfaction from doing a session, right? You get a pump, like for guys.
Oh, yeah.
Like Arnold Schwarzenegger says in Pumping Iron, like, this isn't PG, this podcast, but he says it's better than coming. Like, but he talks about that. And, you know, when you go in and do a session
like that,
you like, you know, you do an arm session or you do a tricep session or something like that, and you feel your arms fill out and you're walking out the gym with a little bit of air lack going on or something like that. Like, it feels good, right? And you know you've done something, versus going and doing, you know, you might go and do a CrossFit session or a tough endurance session. You don't get that same feeling from coming out. You're normally dead walking out the gym.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you get it's horse of course is what you're training for, isn't it? It's what, like I said, go back to what we talked about, 10, 15 years ago, guys going in the gym on a Friday night, pumping their arms, doing some buys and tries before they go down to the club, because they can go out and you feel good, you feel better about yourself, don't you? So, that's another subject, like the mental health aspect of it. But you feel good. But it does depend what you're training for. So, like with me, with my triathlon stuff, I'll do a hard work on the turbo trainer, on the stationary bike. And when I finish like an hour on that, I don't look particularly pretty. I wouldn't go and start, I do occasionally post out stuff on the Instagram story, but it's not something I'd use as a profile pic.
No,
but 10, 15 minutes after that, I feel good in myself because I've achieved what I wanted to achieve from that session. So I still get those good endorphins and that from working hard, which you would do from your spin session, your HIIT session, although it might not be about like aesthetically looking good at that time when you finished it.
Yeah. And like I say, you naturally have, because obviously, you do more CrossFit, say more kind of like appearance based, and how you feel in your kind of like triathlons and endurance sport. So you're naturally going to gravitate, or people are going to gravitate towards you towards those specific things anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, I think we've got our point across on that one. It was a good start, but let's move it on. I'm just going to come up with one more, because this is something that we spoke about before, and I think this is one that we're going to talk quite a lot about. So we'll get out of the way, and that is the role of social media in the fitness industry. Obviously, absolutely massive. I wouldn't be able to. I'm doing this podcast because I have the opportunity to be able to share it on social media and stuff like that. So, this isn't something that we're going to tell you all the bad things about social media. We're going to give our critical analysis on it, but maybe just where we think some interpretations of social media are actually not that good for us. Chris, do you want to start on that?
Well, on the negatives of social media?
You can go either. Your general consensus.
Well, yeah, it's massive now, isn't it? It's a multi-million, billion-pound industry, and it grew from nothing. Like when I started in the gyms, didn't even have a mobile phone, let alone be able to take photos of yourself and video your workouts and put it up and stuff. And now it's like that sort of saying, like, did that workout even happen if it wasn't on the
You're inviting too many opportunities for jokes here, Chris.
I'm holding back.
I'm teeing you up, but not letting you shoot. But yeah, so personally, I think that the growing influence of social media is both positive and negative, isn't it? So that it's great that it allows things like you're doing now, Josh, with being able to do podcasts and all that sort of stuff, and get it out to that wider community, like the benefits and the pros of being fit and being healthy. And there's lots of free content out there for people now, which is amazing. Like, you've got workouts of the week getting posted up, and especially with what we've gone through now with the recent lockdown, there's been an absolute explosion in home workouts. You don't have to pay for it. You go on YouTube, you go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, and you can find all that content for free. Whereas go back a few years and you were shelling out loads of money, weren't you, for your Davina McCall DVD and things like that? But you don't need to do any of that now. But at the same time, that can put pressure. I mean, I've got young kids and that, and you do feel like, for the younger generation particularly, like growing up, but it's not just them, but that's all they'll know. They'll only know that whole social media way of life, and everything's about how you portrayed in that environment. And is that a healthy thing? Don't know. Like there's pros and cons depending on the individual, really.
Yeah, it's not just that, is it? Now, like, you get all these apps and let's say people showing themselves at the gym working out, but it's always, like, say, at their best. You mentioned, Chris, that you wouldn't put your profile photo up of you like sweating, but like, say, this is also kind of like the negative side of it, where people will not just put up their photo at their best, but edited as well. So you have this kind of unrealistic expectation to look a certain way all the time, which can create a lot of problems. Like I say, with a lot of people thinking that they can never change this, no matter what they do, they can never look like this person they're looking up to, that are essentially influencing them, who are potentially fitness influencers of some kind. And yeah, there can be like these unrealistic expectations to look a certain way, which can lead down a very negative path, can't it?
I think you picked up on a good point before we actually started recording, Dave, in terms of like, because you're not so reliant on your immediate local community around you, like before, if you lived in Newquay, you would go down to Waterworld and you would meet me, you and Chris, and we would be there, like, and we would be the trainers. You would come in, and regardless of if you liked our training styles or whatever, like, you were there and we would be there watching over you, that type of stuff. Now with the role of social media, that you could literally be working with someone over in Australia because their message resonates with you. So the pros of that is great for the trainer because they're able to expand their business. Like we're all in the fitness industry on the online space as well. And then you look at the person who's looking for it, they've got loads of options now. And they've got so many options, so much free content, like Chris said already. But then is that just giving them, because they've got so much options, it's actually not causing them to nail down on one thing and actually take action on that one thing? Absolutely.
And like, because you do have all that information out there, and a lot of it, like when I speak to my clients and I'm talking to them on the phone about, their struggles and what's holding them back from achieving their goals. And a lot of it, I'd say 89% of the time, comes down to confusion about what to do and conflicting information. And because, like I say, the social media element of it has gone massive, everyone has their own point of view. Everyone has their own style, their way of training, their way of coaching. And yeah, like I say, it's fundamentally finding out where do I go? What do I do in order to do it? So they don't end up really doing anything, or a bit of this or a bit of that. And then again, struggling to achieve their goals, which is why they end up in the same place. And it's very difficult for the people that, know a little bit and with all this information out there.
I think that's a good point though, isn't it? It's like, it's having that, like we talked about, going right back to the start with the bros, but having at least now there's a definite way into health and fitness, isn't there? It's quite accessible, you don't have to spend a fortune, have like the latest kit or whatever just to get yourself started. But once you're in and things start to like move forward, making sure that you then get your focus on what are your goals, what do you really want to achieve. Once that sort of just general sort of fitness and startups happened, which avenue do you want to go down? And then I think that's when people like myself, you guys, would come into it with your own particular way of coaching and what you're offering. And then the people then make their choice of going down, okay, I'm going to go down the route of what Dave's delivering, what Chris is delivering, what Joff's delivering.
And that is a good thing, isn't it? Like, it does give you that kind of entry level going, okay, I just want to work out. YouTube, Instagram, you can literally find any workout anywhere. And if your aim is just to not necessarily look better, just work out, just for a little bit healthy, to be healthier, then you can find something anywhere. And like I say, that next level on, when it's not enough anymore, you want to step up to that next level. That's when you have those coaches that are specific in those areas that you want to go down.
Yeah, almost like a gateway into it. And absolutely. I think what's really important to note is that, like, there is great trainers out there who have hundreds and hundreds or thousands of followers who are delivering a great message. But what are people really looking for when they're scrolling through, and what's stopping them from going from point A to point B in terms of reaching their goal? It's not necessarily just the knowledge or the free content or that type of stuff. A lot of it comes down to like the relationship and the accountability, right? How big is accountability? So I almost feel like, like James Smith, people like that are amazing, and the message that they promote is great, and I'm fully on board with it, and I think he's good. But then you see people signing up just because of the premise that he is at the front line of the industry. But are you necessarily going to get what you need from him? Are you going to get that that awkward conversation when you're starting to slip on your diet a little bit, when your training is not going? And I'm not saying everybody has to go and get a coach and pay through the roof for it, but if you almost look a little bit closer to home sometimes and not get kind of pulled out by the people with the best marketing, the people with the best, most budget for marketing, the best adverts, the best ads, that type of stuff, you'll probably find there's people very close to you who are going to offer you double the service for a lot less of the price, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I keep my client base sort of fairly small, and it's just for that reason, Joff. Exactly that. Like you name some examples there of some bigger people in the industry. Well, they might have 100,000 people following their sort of their training system and their training plan, but they're not. Those 100,000 people aren't getting phone calls from James every week on like, how just checking in, how you doing, that sort of stuff. There may be the odd sort of Facebook group and things like that are set up, and like that sort of community thing, which is brilliant. But with the guys that I work with, they'll get phone calls and messages direct from me all the way along the journey. Most weeks they'll have contact with me in some form or another, and obviously doing it even via these sort of FaceTime and Zoom conferences now, which is sort of like massive. But it's really helped. You get that face-to-face contact with a client, and they can relay any like difficulties and fears, what's gone right, what's gone wrong that week, and then the training can be adapted instantly to what they need and where they're going. Which again, if you go down the mainstream, you are going to lose that. You can't possibly have it as nailed on and as specific. It is going to be a more general sort of training program that you're going to be following, isn't it? Has to be.
Yeah, because you can't deal with that. I mean, like I say, I'm very same. I like to have a set number of clientele because I like to be very hands-on, and I think my goal as a coach is to educate my clients, and I feel like I'm successful when they don't need me anymore. So I've given them the skills, the habits, the structure, and everything that they need to take it on for themselves and succeed on their own, and not just get a quick fix result going, oh, I've lost 2 stone in 12 weeks, and then just lose it, put it all back on again. I want to be able to get you to that point, tell you how you've done that, teach you along the way, and actually, be able to sustain those results in your lifestyle and fitting something that is sustainable, fitting a plan and a program into your lifestyle rather than changing your life to fit a plan.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement of that one. And again, just it's not as if we can do anything about it. Like we all do it as well. We use social media to benefit us as well. But I think we've weighed up some good pros and cons there of what people should probably be considering as they go through. Quick one before we go on to another topic. I just remember fat burners being like a massive thing, 10, 15 years ago, just in gyms in general, like people just pop in fat burners for fun. And it would just be interesting to get everybody's thoughts on them now, because I think we're all in agreement that they're relevant at a point. I'm sure if someone, Dave, in the physique model scene, I'm sure plenty of people are using things like fat burners. It was just like, I remember it was just like your average Joe's going to the gym, just popping fat burners and then going and having McDonald's after, and you know what I mean, and doing a bro sesh.
And I think that's what it is, isn't it? It's like people and the modern thought process is, I want results yesterday, and don't want to do anything to get that result or work hard. So they're looking for that answer, that quick fix, that that shake, that special supplement, and the magic, which is going to give them the body that they want and lose the body fat they want. But in reality, it is just find something sustainable and being in a calorie deficit and working out and being consistent at those things.
And it just takes time, doesn't it? I think again, like you said, you go back to those things and those fat burners and those magic pills, and again, it's how they're marketed, isn't it? It's like a lot of this stuff, the person that's that's on the screen or on your Instagram feed or on your Facebook feed with that little box of pills going, these really work, you know, and they look absolutely amazing, don't they? I mean, they look fantastic, but it isn't just because they've just taken that pill. They may well be using those fat burners. They may well be taking those vitamin pills or whatever each day. But along with that, they're training bloody hard in the gym. They're also, like you say, following a healthy, good nutrition program, because you don't look like you don't. But the perception for those that aren't in the industry, that don't really know, they'll just see that person with that physique, and then they see that and they go, oh, if I spend like 30 quid on those and have one of them every single day, I'll look like that. And like you say, they don't put the other elements into it of the good diet and nutrition and the exercise.
Yeah, and it's like the assumption of it, isn't it? Like someone who's in amazing shape holding up something and going, I take this. You know, it's that assumption going, oh my God, if I do that, I'll look like them as well. But it is, you know, you get people like drinking endless amounts of like green tea and taking these thermo pures or fat burners of any kind to kind of get that like added edge. And like I say, you know, especially when I was competing and doing physique modeling, fitness modeling stuff, you know, you would hear conversations about it. People going, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing this? I'd say I'm taking this, I'm taking that, I'm stacking this with this. And it's just like mind blowing.
Yeah, I can imagine that industry must just be like,
mate, it's right.
Absolutely
like,
nuts.
It's crazy. And it's like, because that is essentially, I mean, I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it was like affecting my mental state and the way I saw my body, because, you know, it almost sent me down a route of, I say, an eating disorder, and, you know, just putting like the be all and end all on how I look. And I just didn't like the way it was going. And I was like, enough's enough for me. Do you know what I mean? It's not a healthy route to kind of go down. And it probably took me the best part of 2 years to kind of reset my mental state in regards to what I actually really wanted to achieve and what actually really made me happy. But like I say, the whole driving point of going back to that original point is looking better. I need to do this and this and this, like, and step it up the next level to look better. And it's a bad path to go down.
It just comes down to clever marketing again there as well. And like, even, I guess, fat burners, the modern day version of that is like skinny jabs, which is like, I'm sure you both saw like uproar on social media not long ago with Gemma Collins pushing that. And like, if you actually go in and do a bit of research on stuff like that, like, obviously, you know, Gemma Collins and Kerry Katona aren't pushing this part of it, but if you go into the website, it's like combined with a healthy, you know, lifestyle, you know, exercise.
Yeah, they do. It's a small print, isn't it? It's that little caveat at the bottom of all these things. And what the general public has to realise is it's all of this stuff. It's just multi-billion-pound industries. So the guys that are making these products, they're not doing it for your health and benefit. They're doing it to make
financial
shed
gain.
Loads of cash.
Yeah,
they're doing it for financial gain. Yeah, and again, you know, not all, but a lot of these celebrities and even, you know, sport athletic stars that are endorsing and marketing, again, they're doing this because they're getting paid to tell you that they use this product every day. You know, they're getting paid to tell you. That is the ultimate reason why they're doing it. And so
I thought you were going to pop up your mug then, like a Chris Dominey sponsored mug.
It doesn't say that.
That would have been perfect.
It says coffee.
What that placement?
Day more beautiful. That's all it says.
All right, let's move on. I'm going to open up the floor for someone to come up with something.
Another change.
Yeah.
So I think a matter. I mentioned it earlier before we got started, didn't I? And I think it kind of ties into what we've been talking about. But obviously, the massive boom in sort of like wearable technology.
Yes.
So that's like massive. Go back to like when I started in the gyms, and we've already mentioned how long ago that was, and how there wasn't even mobile phones back then. But there definitely wasn't things that you wear on your wrists that told you like how far you ran, what your heart rate was doing, how much sleep you had that night, and all that sort of stuff. And that's everywhere now. You know, everyone seems to have a Garmin, an Apple Watch, you know, similar products, and that in itself has, I think, taken like particularly what you know, what I'm starting to do with the triathlon coaching, what Dave's done with his coaching online, that's made a massive inroad to that. And obviously what you do, Joff, with your Movement Wins project, without that wearable tech, you know, you wouldn't be able to do half of the things that you do. Because if you, like you mentioned earlier, if you're training somebody in Australia and you're based in Cornwall, well, how do you analyze, how do you gather data on what that person's doing? You know, they can say I went for a run today, or they can say I went to the gym and did a HIIT workout or whatever, but that doesn't really mean a lot until you start analyzing, okay, so what, you know, what heart rate zones were they in, how many calories did they burn, and all that sort of stuff. So I think the wearable tech industry has really helped to transform, like, from where we were to where we are now.
Something that really helped with me and got me into that technology side of it. I actually remember wearing a polar heart rate monitor when I was teaching spinning back at Waterworld, but obviously not using the data from it. But when I started really getting back into it again, like 5 or 6 years ago, was when, you know, I'd be working as a PT and I would have, and, you know, doing personal training is expensive, right? It's, you know, it's an investment for someone. So they come in, and they might be someone who wants to do PT, but they do have a bit of a budget. And, you know, you might diagnose them, but you might say, hey, what you need to be doing is training 4 days a week. You know, we need to be doing a couple of strength sessions to make sure that we're doing this. We need some cardio sessions, some high intensity, whatever, you know, 4 sessions. And they might turn around and say, I can't do 4 sessions with you. Like, I can only afford 2. So then, like, I would always go through this process of saying, okay, well, that's fine. Do the 2 strength sessions with me, because that's what you need me there for, my skills, make sure you're doing it safely. Listen, you can do your cardio session by yourself on the treadmill or at home. You don't need me for that in your high intensity. And then, you know, you set that program up for them. 12 weeks later, you come back and you're asking them, hey, have you been? Yeah, I've been doing my training. And you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if they are. And after 12 weeks, you've promised them that they're going to lose X amount of weight or get to this physique. And then you're kind of stood there as you weigh them and check their body fat, and they go, oh, I haven't lost anything. And you're going, you start questioning yourself then. You start going, well, were you doing the extra sessions that I told you? They're going, yeah. And you're going, oh. And then in the beginning, you start doubting yourself as a trainer. You start going, oh man, like, I must be doing something wrong. And then you realize that maybe they're not doing the sessions, which is probably more accurate. And then I just like the heart rate monitors simply for just proof. Like, I wasn't using it for anything other than, can I see your heart rate go up and down on this date that you said you did it? Cool, that's perfect for me.
It's that accountability again, isn't it? It's like with that data now, it just gives you, as the coach, the accountability 24/7. So you don't, like you just said, you have to be, you can see your client once a week. With the guys that I train online for triathlon, I don't see them at all. You know, they just get a plan delivered weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever it needs to be for that person. They crack on. They usually, you know, you're not going to lie, those guys are normally very motivated people anyway. You know, they're doing the sport they do because they almost want a performance result at the end of it. They're performance orientated. So it's not a question with those guys where you have to kind of nudge them to do the training. They're quite, you know, they're going to go out and do that training, whatever. They just want to make sure that the training they're doing is correct for them and in the right order, and it's going to maximize their time. But all of their training gets tracked by me just by what they do. So they'll have power meters on their bikes now. They have, like you said, the heart rate monitors, the GPS where we're tracking how fast they're running. We'll work out all those zones. But all that information is directly feedback to me, and I can just analyze it daily, weekly, whatever it needs to be, and instantly give them feedback on, right, you went too hard there, you went too slow there. Actually, look, you could do with by tracking sleep and stuff now, we can say, well, actually, do you know what? You could do with an extra rest day. You know, we need to put extra days recovery in here for you. That stuff was just, you know, the stuff of the pro sports teams way back when, wasn't it? You know, and now it's just for us mere mortals. We can still have access to all of that stuff, which was, you know, the stuff of pipe dreams, say 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes down to, essentially, with any successful result or coaching, it comes down to tracking and accountability, doesn't it? And that's what it gives you.
Yeah, and I think like the nutrition part of it as well, which I know, Dave, you do a lot of that. Like that, you know, MyFitnessPal and things like that are great and they're amazing, but there's still kind of like that scarcity mindset of people not wanting to do it. And heart rate monitors is literally, you wear a heart rate monitor and like you do the workout or whatever, whereas tracking, it's like, you know, there is an element or a barrier to logging the right foods, weighing things out, this, that, or the other, which as fitness coaches and talking to people like that, we say, get over it. But I'm sure on the horizon, there's going to be, you know, there's good apps coming out now where you scan foods and things like that, but there'll be, you know, I'm sure there'll be like a little chip that you put in the corner of your mouth that can, when you eat something, it measures, do you know what I mean? It'll just flash up on your smartphone. If that's not getting invented already, then I need to do something about it.
Yeah, you need to
right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for the podcast.
But like what gets tracked gets managed, yeah. So we know that. So if you're tracking whatever it is, nutrition or like how, you know, your runs, your bike ride, your swims, your strength training, whatever it is, if you keep a note of it, I mean, if you think back to the day, like, you know, we go back to when we were just talking about right in the early days, you know, I always used to, whenever I used to do my training, you get that little notebook when you go down Smith's, get yourself a little notepad and pen, and you'd be jotting it in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Chalk and easel. Go too far with this, boys. You know that, don't you?
All right, yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that, with the heart rate monitors. Dave, have you got anything that sticks out that you can think of?
Not really, mate. I think, like I say, a lot of it we've kind of covered in regards to, like, say, how things have kind of evolved. Obviously, there's always technology, etc., coming out and evolving and bring things in. Some for the better, some for the worse, some that just come and get brought out for the sake of being brought out. But you know, at the end of the day, it's what works for you, essentially. So, you know, what's going to get you to work out, what's going to make you healthier, what is going to keep you on plan, keep you tracking, keep you heading towards your goal and what you want to achieve. And like, how can you manage that and change it into like a lifestyle rather than just a quick fix or a fad, which is what you see a lot of the time.
I think I would say one other big change in the industry has been like sort of group training now is big, isn't it? It's big business, and that whole sort of community feel. And I think that's where, like, again, with what you do, Joff, with like the CrossFit thing, I think that's been one of its major selling points, and the reason that it grew so quickly, like as it did, 100%. Is because of that. It's because of that community feel that, like I said, I've never done CrossFit. I'm not anti it, but one thing I've always kind of like with what I do is my sport is quite an individual sport. So we go out and do our training, you know, majority of the time we do it solo, you know, particularly if you trade in for the distances that I do. But looking in from afar onto the sort of CrossFit community, that's one thing where you know, I've always been a bit envious of it, and you go, oh, you know, that's quite good. They just all work out together all the time, and they have that, you know, they go down the pub for drinks together. They have a pizza at the box at the end of the session, right, together. And you know, and I think that's part of it though, is the fact that everyone's training together, and it's that group vibe, and that again that brings with it its own, it brings with it its own accountability as well, doesn't it? Because you're training with your mates. You have your sessions up there to try and beat your times to beat. So there's that element of competition which everyone likes, keeps people pushing, whether it's to beat your buddy or just to beat your own time from last week or whatever. And I think the group training side of things is massive compared to probably, again, where it was 10, 20 years ago. There's always been fitness classes, don't get me wrong, you know, like step classes, all that sort of stuff's always existed. But I think the more of the community feel of that is really evolved.
I think
Dave, you do this, don't you? Dave, you do this with your online training though, because you have like your Facebook, but you have groups set up within what you do with your coaching.
No, it's all kind of one-to-one coaching. So I don't do any kind of online specific like workout classes where I mean, I have done it in my private group on Facebook, where I have done like those sorts of things, but it's nowhere near like a regular part of what I do. I do it to kind of like uplift, motivate, and like give some people to kind of do. But like I say, it is a massive thing, and it does create that accountability and that altogether vibe. Because obviously, like I say, going back in the day when we've all taught classes, Chris, you were doing TRX circuits, etc. Joff, same. And people a lot of the time turn up because of the family feel, because everyone's there, their mates are there, and that's the accountability. That's what turns up, whether they're there to like massively push themselves to like their next level, or it just holds them accountable to get in to do a workout. You have that accountability factor because everyone's there.
Yeah, you've nailed that there. And like, it's a big part of it is going, like, class environments are great for the community that you've already nailed already, but just a simple fact that when you go to a class and you sign in and you say, "Hi coach, I'm here for the class," you are not walking out of that class until you're done. Whereas if you spent the whole day at work motivating yourself to get to the gym, and you finally get there and you have to go down by yourself and do a workout, you'll probably do 50% of your workout and just get out of there. Whereas if you're in a class, you're cemented into the class then. Yeah. And just going back to what you said about CrossFit, Chris, and like why it's, not necessarily because CrossFit is a brand, right? But that kind of style, that high intensity functional training is here to stay in that environment, is because, people weren't, if you wanted to do strength training and learn Olympic lifting, deadlifting, squatting, back in the day, you couldn't go to a fitness class. Like, Dave had a circuits class, Shirley had loads of great classes, spinning classes, stuff like that, which is absolutely amazing for high intensity, for, just getting people moving, that type of stuff. But you're not going down to those classes to learn the technique for deadlifting or to do a snatch or something like that. So then what's your next option? Yeah, you might be able to collar one of the gym instructors on the floor, but they're probably going to be busy. So the next obvious thing would be to pay for a session, which people wouldn't want to do. So then what happened was that it made it accessible for people. By putting it into a group setting, it became accessible for people to learn strength and conditioning. And then that's where like the growth that came, because guess what? When people started doing heavy squats and heavy deadlifts, guess what? Their body shape started improving. And you got, going back to the bro split, you got people who never trained their legs to go into people that train their legs, started to get abs, started to get more defined. They got better results from it. And that's where it kind of grew from, right?
Yeah, but they got that because the focus shifted from, they didn't go there to necessarily get that look. They didn't go there to go, I'm going to join the CrossFit gym or whatever gym to get these mirror muscles. They went there just to get fit and healthy, and then hey ho, by doing the proper training with the proper techniques, suddenly they're getting the results that they they didn't even know they wanted, and they're like feeling better about themselves along the way. So it's great. Flipping back to what you just said though, you just reminded me of Shirley and her classes. She was probably a pioneer of that community feel, because actually her classes were ones that definitely did have that whole community vibe with the girls going out for drinks and stuff afterwards and all that sort of stuff. So
100%. And I'll definitely share this one with her as well. I'm sure she'll appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely a pioneer, Shirley. Well done.
The originator.
Yeah. I think you're right. Like she literally just used to have like a cult of ladies that would come to her, and she almost had the power to be able to introduce different classes, and people would go down, they trusted Shirley, they'd trained with her for years, and she did really adopt that style of training.
And I think that's what it comes down to a lot of our industry, doesn't it? It comes down to that, whether it's in a group environment or a one-to-one environment, it comes down to that coach-client relationship. And us as coaches, we rise or fall based on that, basically. So, people have good experiences, they come back, they tell others, you build up your client base. And that's kind of how it works. And it's the same with whatever aspect that is, whether it's working with someone one-to-one or working with someone, in a group, in a class. If you can create that sense of belonging and that empathy for the people that you're working with, they'll come back to you, and they'll stay loyal to you, won't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think, and we've gone off on some different tangents here, and we're going to wrap it up. But like I mentioned before, and we were kind of all in agreement with it, like if you have someone that you buy into a little bit more, their message, you like the message they give off, they're your style of training, that type of stuff, that you can definitely niche down. But everything comes back to those core values of what we all promote in terms of the stuff that isn't necessarily sexy, but the most important things, like sleep, balanced nutrition, hydration, all those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And just moving, isn't it? It's simple. Like you said, if you keep it simple, there's lots of these fads that we've discussed today, like that have come and gone, but basically they're all around. They all center around like those key elements that you just said.
Yeah.
Keep moving. Try and have a healthy diet, healthy nutrition as best you can, and be consistent, and just be prepared that it's going to take some time. Don't be looking for that quick fix. If you want it to solve all your problems in 1 week, you just got to realize it isn't going to happen.
Yeah, that is it, isn't it? Being realistic with what you want to achieve in a realistic time frame, and keeping it simple is massively key. And usually, if you master the basics, you're going to get a result. And because like I say, you be consistent at those things.
Yeah, I think we've come up with some good points there. I think we'll wrap it up. Unless there's anything else that you've got.
I think we've got it, mate. I think we've done it.
Yeah, just a nice little trip down memory lane. Just talk about.
It's lovely.
I'm sure if we wanted to, we could.
We didn't even mention Charlie.
Yeah, let's mention Charlie.
Oh no, we didn't mention Charlie.
So Charlie was at Waterworld, which is the Leisure Centre we were at. He was the caretaker kind of manager, and he was just an absolute animal in terms of he was king of deadlifting and
strongest back ever, I think, in the world.
And his day would just be planned around, getting stronger for the deadlift. So he'd do some jobs, he'd do a set of pull-ups, he'd do some jobs, and he'd do some hand grips. And I can't even remember the numbers that he used to pull, but unbelievable.
Yeah,
he was the ultimate cleaner, wasn't he? I always remember, you just come into the gym in the morning, he'd open up about 6:37. He'd already be downstairs doing his chin-ups or his pull-ups, getting himself sorted, and then he'd have his grip hand strength workout going on, hidden in his little locker, and it would be sort of like half an hour of hoovering, and then 10 minutes of supersets.
Then the best macro split lunch ever.
Yeah.
Tuna and beans with jack potato.
Every day.
He's a pioneer.
Consistency.
But it was, wasn't it? I mean,
he got great records, for his age group, for the deadlift. I
think I remember him showing me a photo on his wall, pulling, I think it was 340, something like that, 340 kilos.
Unbelievable.
And how old is he now? Yeah. 103? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah. He put us all to shame in our strength.
He would do.
Yeah.
Definitely would. Shake his hand, about it.
Yeah. Okay, let's wrap it up. Where can we find you guys, Dave?
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at body.development.coach or on LinkedIn at David Rowe, and Facebook as well at David Rowe.
Okay, cool. On me, I'm on Instagram as @Coach Chris Dom. Facebook is @CD Performance Coach, and I've got a website, chrisdominey.com.
Yeah, go and check these guys out. I'll link you up in the show notes as well, so people can find you. And I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. But this show will actually go out tomorrow, so quick turnaround.
Nice, like it.
Something to listen to on my long run, Joff. Something to listen to on my long run, mate.
And it's a long run.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See you later, mate.